question mark given to this last move by Vincent Keymer. Remember, he's down the exchange. We were here a while ago. White has a knight and pawn, black has a rook. But more importantly, white's pieces are not looking great. The white queen, what is she doing on this square? She's feeling very claustrophobic, and the black queen can come in. The black queen has a nice square to jump into. Potential, again, back rank checks. Any queen exchange winning for black due to the fact there are so many pawns on the left side of the board. White's bishop passive, white's knights tied up to each other. Funny how Anish Giri mentioned that, the superfluous knights just in the way of each other, kind of fighting for their own squares. Hikaru, at some point he's going to enter. I'm not sure which angle the black queen comes in. You can also maybe go this way. And either way, once the black queen jumps into the white position, hard to imagine holding everything together there.
But body language seems to say that he's feeling confident, but he keeps hesitating.
Yeah, he's about to go for it, and he keeps stopping.
He doesn't. He moves the bishop, attacks the knight, and Vincent immediately steps back. And that's very smart by Keymer, because he knows his best shot is the clock, or maybe not, as Hikaru gets the queen in.
Okay, at the very least, it does finally give Hikaru permission to jump to that earlier square that we had talked about. Maybe the queen would try to go for, putting pressure on the bishop. Of course, now, as the knight jumped forward once again for Vincent, he is effectively defending that piece.
A pawn's hanging now. Can he just pick that up?
He can, Hikaru Nakamura. I think he will. He's looking at it. He's making the last-minute checks of the position. He's going to take this pawn. White will trade off a set of knights and most likely win a pawn back with his queen. But this might just force a queen exchange in a moment. Knight takes knight. Will be a capture. I would normally say don't trade off pieces here. Don't allow your pawns to fall for your opponent's weaknesses. Why rush? But Hikaru, if he can guarantee the queens come off, which is very likely in the near future, if he can guarantee the queens are off, again, it's just the fact that there are pawns lurking on both flanks of the board. He has the rook, the long-range piece. Knight takes knight. The black queen will recapture. And the question for Vincent is, can he survive any endgame if he takes his pawn with his queen? He does. Taking with the knight there was also a possibility, but didn't look too promising because of back rank checks later on.
I imagine you don't trade queens for two reasons. Number one, you're the attacking player. You'd like to hold on to your queen. Number two, if we were to trade, then the knight jumps in with a fork on the bishop and the rook.
Yeah.
Although there's a sting in the tail at the end where you can fork the two white pieces. You can trade queens. I'll just very quickly put this on the board while Hikaru thinks. Then you can swing your rook across, and then you can bring your rook down with a double attack, a fork.
But that hand movement by Hikaru, it didn't look like he was going for a queen trade. He's retreating with the bishop. That seemed incredibly powerful, the line that you were pointing out.
That would have traded queens and pretty much won on the spot, I think. Queens off the board there, if you can get to that white pawn in the corner, would have just been winning. He brings his bishop back. Question mark move, apparently. Also, Vincent, according to the engine, only has one move to survive. If Vincent doesn't find this move, retreating his queen, again, Hikaru reassumes the dominance and probably just goes on to win this game. A queen exchange, we've mentioned, favors black because the white corner pawn will just drop off. And anything else, black actually has a big attack against the white king on the light squares. You need to retreat back. Going up to the top of the board with a check doesn't pay off because black's rook can slide back and defend and block.
He does make a move in the final seconds there.
And he swaps queens.
But it's not a good one.
That is terminal. The white queen needed to save herself and retreat to keep herself on the board for counterplay later. That was the only saving move. Now a queen trade is going to be very one-sided traffic in the endgame. Hikaru is going to finish this off. Vincent, his dream run, the second fairy tale, episode 2, is not going to end in victory. Queens are off the board. Again, if the A pawns weren't here, this would be a draw. But just the presence of those pawns is going to decide this game.
And you could do that, take that to your advantage right now, right? That move that Hikaru made, lifting his rook to the 6th rank, slide it all the way across, and start targeting that weakness. That pawn falls. Vincent's dreams of getting the second slams comes to an end. Hikaru Nakamura on the brink of eliminating Vincent Keymer.
And there you have it, just a steady Rook move, putting pressure onto the bishop.
Yeah, this looks just brilliant. He's going to bring his rook in, go from the side. 7th rank, we say, in chess. 2nd rank as well for black. That is where the targets lie. That's where rooks love to be.
That's actually super precise by Hikaru. You know, you're either going to trade the bishop for the knight, give a check, and then win a pawn by force, or you'll just enter immediately, depending on what Vincent's choice of retreat with the bishop is. I think Vincent's looking sideways at his score sheet. He might be about to resign this one.
Any moment. Any moment now. He's only got a few seconds left as well. 12 seconds on the clock. Vincent Keymer.
He's giving up. How do you even fight this? There's nothing left on the board.
He's going to exhaust every ounce of brain power he has, and every second that he has on the clock will still make a move. Bishop slides up, out of danger, but of course there's still the option for that bishop to trade for the knight, and then we're just playing into a rook versus a bishop endgame.
You can give a check and win it by force. You could also come up with your own rook, blocking the white king. Gives a check, king forced to step up, give another check, win the pawn. And then march up the board with the remaining pawn on the left side. It's a clear-cut winning plan for black.
So maybe here and now, Vincent's asking himself, where did it all go wrong along the way?
It was a really well-played game. I mean, even the middle game sort of keeping his chances, trying to hold on. But Hikaru, once he got the upper hand, he just cramped down all of Vincent's pieces, never really giving him the time to detangle. And I wonder if it comes down to a decision of getting your king to safety, the castling decision that Vincent Keymer took. And Hikaru finding the brilliant long castle himself, which sort of just sealed Vincent's fate with an attack on the right side.
This is a sight we haven't seen before this season in classical freestyle chess. Vincent Keymer about to resign.
They even up at 1-1. There's the handshake between these two players. The first of our semifinals to conclude. It's Hikaru Nakamura taking down the defending champion in Vincent Keymer. He moves on to the finals.
Rook 1 to d2 seems to be a logical continuation after the rook d3 move.
And I think it's played. It's professional. Just protecting that a2 pawn.
And actually now black can't even go rook a8.
Because of bishop g5,
bishop
yes.
g5.
Exactly. I also just, at that very moment, realized that, black cannot move away because then knight takes g5, rook d8 is checkmate one more time once the rook from e8 moves away.
So basically right now in this position, it means that the black knight from e6 cannot move because the g5 is hanging. The rook from e8 cannot make a move because the g5 pawn can be captured, right?
Yes.
So the only three piece which can move is the king from g8, the pawn which was pushed, and the a4 rook.
Yeah, b4 had to be pushed. Magnus might just sidestep with the king to b1. Yeah.
Of course.
On the board, yes. Just sidestepping, getting out of any kind of b3 moves. You don't need to calculate that.
Rook a8. What is the trick? What happens after
bishop takes g5? b3.
b3.
b3 destruction. Lovely. And then after rook takes b3, we can pick it up. And after a takes b3, we are trading one pair off. But the bishop is capturing back the rook. So it's not that simple as I wanted to indicate. So actually, maybe I can take on g5. I can take on g5 and b3, a, b, and then...
B3.
Okay, Magnus goes bishop e7. He doesn't need to calculate all these lines.
So what is his plan after rook e8?
Maybe rook d7. Just enter with the rook. Okay, it's kind of funny, that Magnus played this bishop e7 instantly instead of calculating a little bit, because Anish was the one who revealed us the secret that Magnus always, this is your plan. Let me calculate. I will allow your plan because it's wrong.
So maybe he's going to go back to f6, and after rook a8, what we discussed, he will be taking on g5. So after b3 captures, this is what you want? This is what you get?
The point is that Magnus, with bishop e7, went for the lazy approach. And now that it did not lead any success, he will go back, There we have it, bishop f6, rook e8, blitzed out, and now Magnus will be taking his time, or maybe he has already calculated that and look at he's calculating. You can see on his eyes, wait a second, I can figure this out. I can take on g5. I can fall into my opponent's trap.
Are we going to see bishop takes g5 on the board?
I'm expecting yes. Now that Magnus used the lazy approach before and it didn't bring any success, I think he's tempted to calculate.
Yeah, in the meantime, we see that...
No, but he won't. He plays rook to b2.
He's very careful.
He's very careful.
Extremely
yes.
careful.
Okay, he's setting up bishop e7. He just wants to eliminate that b4 pawn. He says that, no. This is all about the final. We are in time trouble. I don't want to go for some murky line where I need to be very precise, or I have to make sure that it all works when I have such a technically winning position. And rook b2 now setting up bishop e7, going after the pawn. What can black do at all?
Maybe king f8.
One more time, run with the king. Yeah, that was the big missed opportunity for Caruana after bishop b8.
And the thing is that if white to move bishop e7, rook b8 is not possible, I think, because of a3. There is going to be a pin.
Yes.
And just winning the pawn that way.
Yeah, okay, you anyway cannot hold on to this b4 pawn for too long, but yeah, this is also a lovely little detail that there will be a pin on the b8 rook.
Yeah, again we are seeing and witnessing, rook a6, threatening with knight b4 suddenly, knight f4.
He's playing now rook db3, if he have already were loyal to this game because of the time scramble, and of course, yeah.
But, I thought for a second that it's a blunder, but it's not, because now the 8th rank is, the weakness shows from b8. When
yeah, knight c5, rook b4, rook takes f6, rook b8 checkmate, so the b4 pawn is falling. We might be seeing resignation also here. Time is ticking down. So knight f8 played out of total desperation. Yeah, Fabi is looking around. Should I resign? Probably I should resign. And he will, yes.
Wow, what a game.
Yeah, fantastic game. Okay, it felt like Magnus at some point lost the control. He could have finished the game probably earlier, but then the way how he again created this masterpiece.